you'll come across a very tight section of track to the point where you just stop trying to avoid all the dead stuff and just avoid stuff. Normally you aim for the green stuff and avoid the dead stuff, but there's just dead stuff all over the place. You hear that horrible squeal all down the side of the car. Ew. Oh well, never mind. It's not like it's not already scratched, because it's really, really tight, as you can hear from all the scratching down the side of the car and the occasional whack in the face from a bush as you go past. Well, let's keep punching. G'day guys. Now if that's the sound you don't mind hearing when you're driving down a nice tight bush track, the sound of dead sticks gouging through your paint job, then this is probably not the product for you. But if you've just invested $50, $80, $100,000 of your hard-earned cash, or got yourself into debt for that sort of money for a brand new vehicle, then you might want to consider getting yourself a set of these. Now, I was a little bit skeptical, but the wife talked me into doing it, and probably a good idea too. Now, once upon a time, I would have said the same thing as what some of you are probably saying. It's a four-wheel drive. It's going to get scratched. Just take it out and get it scratched. But when you're investing that kind of money into a brand new vehicle, I think you probably want, in my opinion, and this is my opinion only, you probably want to keep it looking new for as long as possible, just to protect your investment just a little bit. Now, I must admit, when I first bought the Jeep, the very first time I took it off-road, I was taken down a very tight track and it scratched the absolute crap out of it. And I then spent the next 2 weeks running around various panel beaters getting quotes on buffing all those scratches out. So I can tell you, the very first time I scratched my Jeep, I was very, very concerned about it. But after a while, I kind of got used to it and realized that if this is what I wanted to do, then this is what was going to happen. Now, that was a 6-year-old car at the time I got it, so it wasn't brand new. The Hilux is brand spanking new, and I've invested a hell of a lot of money into it. So for $1,000, I want to try and keep it looking new for as long as possible. And as I said earlier, just protect my investment just a little bit, because selling the Jeep in the condition it was in, I didn't get what I really wanted for it because of the damage that had been done to the paint. Now, I invested in a set of bush barriers. Now, I ordered these, or should I say the wife ordered these, and they were here within 3 weeks, basically online. Also contacted them because the Hilux has the Rugged X trim on the door plus a snorkel, so I wanted to make sure. And I didn't want to go for the standard print. I didn't want Anzac picture, camouflage, somebody riding off into the sunset, whatever those standard ones are. I didn't really want that. So I asked if I could have as close to colour match as possible, which they did. And I'm pretty sure it was around about the same price. So I will check that and put it on screen if I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure it was around about the same price as the 4 or 5 standard prints that are available. And I got almost identical colour. It's very, very close. It looks like a matte finish of the Nebula Blue that the Hilux comes in, which you'll see once these are on. So very impressed. Now, a friend of mine, Dave, who is a subscriber to the channel, he has the bush barriers on his 200 series and he reckons they're really good. Gave me a few tips on them. Now, the first thing is, in the instructions it says store flat if possible. Don't really have a lot of space to do that, and given I'm going to be using them a lot, I have rolled them back up. Now, I've used them once. They're back in their box. That is them in there, not quite packed up the way they were when they came, but I've used them once, and Dave said to me, do yourself a favour, when you pack them up in left and right hand side of the vehicle, so you know which bits go on what side of the vehicle. That made very good sense to me. So that is what I've done. He's also suggested to me that if you stick them out in the sunlight for about half an hour before you put them on, they're a little bit easier to put them on. Because I can tell you, You can get it right the first time, but the next panel you put on, it can take you about 5 minutes to line it all up properly. And I did it by myself, and it probably took me somewhere around 20 minutes to half an hour to put the whole lot on, which isn't bad. The only downside to it is when you get back home, you have to wash them first before you store them, and then of course you have to wash the car. So effectively you have to wash your car twice when you come back. But that's the price you pay for protecting your paint. Now again, if you've got an older car or you're not that fussed about scratching your paint, these obviously aren't for you. But if you want to protect your investment, I reckon these are pretty good. So we'll bang them on the car and see what they look like, and then go out and give them a test in the field.
Wants to tame me. You can't catch me on the run, cause I'm gone, yeah. I blaze trails, set fire to what's behind me. No, I'm never looking back, I'm on the run. I could only ever be what I'm made to be. It feels good when I'm living on the edge. Watch me now, roll like thunder, gonna shake the ground. Can't stop me now, I don't give up and I won't back down. I'm a force of nature, can't be contained. I got lightning running all through my veins. Watch me now, watch me now. I come alive when I'm in the face of danger. Bring the pressure, but I'm gonna rise above you.
Alright guys, now I did do a fancy little intro to me actually getting ready to put the bush barriers on, but however I had a complete audio failure and none of the audio turned out in that part of the video. So here I am after putting the bush barriers on, doing the intro to putting the bush barriers on. So first and foremost, I would like to say I do not have any affiliation with bush barriers themselves. I paid full price, full retail price for my bush barriers. They did not help me out at all. Would be nice if they did, but nah, all good. Happy to pay for it all myself. I just want to do a video just to fill in content, of course, but to also show that it is available for a Hilux, because I can't say I've seen too many Hiluxes with bush barriers on. Now that I've said that, I'll probably get heaps of people saying I've got them, so there you go. Now, one thing you do have to be careful of, and you might have seen it in the very first bit of the time lapse, where I've put the first panel on and then realised that there was some dirt behind the panel itself, and I've had to take it off and wipe it. It's a good idea to wipe down anything that's on the panel itself, because you don't want to go and put your barriers on and find that you had a little bit of dirt rubbing behind the barrier and it's now worn a hole in your paint, which is exactly what you were trying not to do. So the barriers are now on. As I said, no affiliation with bush barriers whatsoever, and we'll just walk around here and I'll show you a good reason why you need the bush barriers. Now, while I was putting them on, I noticed this, and I'll get you close up, you might be able to see it. As I've said, I have used these bush barriers once before. Well, I actually said that in my last intro, but you didn't hear it because there's no audio, of course. But here, there's a nice big scratch gouge all the way along that bush barrier. Little tiny bit in the corner there of the paint, very minimal, but you can see that all the way along there. I'll get in nice and close so you can see that. Now, had I not had that on there, there would now be a nice scratch all the way across there in my brand new paint. So, and I don't know if you can see it in on the panels themselves, but there's some minor marks all the way along here. Now, where we went out the other weekend, it wasn't very tight, but you just never know when you're going through a slightly skinny track. A little bit of dead wood sticking out from a bush, and that's what you can end up with. There's a few little marks along here. This one was actually my bad. That was me dragging it along the concrete without realizing it had worn through the packaging, so be very, very careful if you're dragging them. But there's a few little marks along there. There's some cuts in here. Now, Basically, when you get your bush barrier, they do say that you might have to do a little bit of tweaking, cut a little bit of stuff away somewhere along the line because it might not fit properly. I've had to do it here. Where that badge is there, it was only cut out for the Hilux part. It wasn't cut out for the 2.8 D4D, so I had to cut that bit out. Very, very simple to do. Just laid it on the table with something underneath it, got a metal ruler and a Stanley knife, of course, marked out where I needed to cut and just sliced straight through it. Very, very easy. But apart from that, I haven't had to do anything else. It can be very fiddly to put on. There's a couple of panels there. You might have seen the door. There's always one. This one here didn't want to go on straight, so I basically filmed the time lapse of me putting it all on, and then I've gone around and tweaked it all a little bit. You're never going to get it perfect, and you're never going to get it same time every time, but if it protects your paint, it's a worthwhile investment. So now we'll get it ready for going out on the tracks tomorrow, and see if I can get some nice big horrible scratchy bits of wood going down the side of the vehicle. Alright, we'll see you tomorrow, guys. Alright guys, well, as you can see, I have been out the last couple of days doing some testing of the bush barriers. Not overly tight tracks that I've been through, but there are some that have got some branches and stuff overhanging. Now you never know what's hiding behind the green stuff, so I reckon they are worth their weight in gold. A couple of scratchy bits through that track I just went through there. Don't know what the paint would look like if I didn't have the bush barriers on, but they've certainly lived up to the test this weekend. 2 days of four-wheel driving, and when I peel them off, hopefully I won't have any scratches. So we'll go back home, peel them off and see what it looks like. Alright guys, so here we are back at home now, and I have removed the bush barriers. They are sitting right there on the floor, all nicely flat packed. Now I would suggest when you take them off, if it has been raining or whatever, make sure you give any moisture a wipe off, because you don't really want to store them away with water on them, because it's not all that good for them. Anyway, we shall have a quick walk around the car just to make sure there isn't any nasty scratches. Looking good so far. Might as well let you have a look. So yep, quick check of all the panels on this side. There's a little bit of dust. Can't see any pinstriping whatsoever. Yep, just a bit of dust and a bit of dirt from the lines on the bush barriers, and we'll just walk around the other side. Now, I did wash them when I got back, hence why they were wet and needed to dry out in the sun today. So let's have a quick look down this side. So yep, closer inspection, only the lines from where they met up with each other along the panels, or the edge of the panels, just the dust and the dirt. Nothing, no scratching, no pinstripes. nothing. Now, the tracks I did over the weekend weren't overly tight, but there was the odd bit sticking out that did go down the side of the car, so there were some marks on the bush barriers themselves, but nothing on the paint. So pretty happy with that. That's the second time off-road with them, third time off-road with the car, fourth time off-road with the car, and no scratches. So better than I did with the Jeep. First time I went off-road with the Jeep, I scratched the absolute crap out of it. So doing well so far. So in my opinion, a worthwhile investment. What do you reckon? Alright guys, just before we go, I'd just like to take this opportunity to remind you all that there are a couple of ways you can help support our content. Making these videos, it's not cheap. Apart from investing a fair bit of coin in a new vehicle, and we've all pretty much done that, the price of fuel these days is a little bit ridiculous. And having said that, trying to get out and create content with these overhead costs is getting more and more difficult for all four of us to be able to do. So if you'd like to help support us to enable us to get out further and create some amazing content for you guys, maybe consider becoming a Patreon. If you head over to Patreon, there are different tiers. You can just spend $5 a month. As Andrew St. Pierre White says, you can buy us a cup of coffee once a month, $5. And if I get a fair few people that start doing that, that will help us so much to be able to get out there and create some amazing content for you guys. Of course, the next 2, 3, 4th tier will give you extra benefits, but the bottom tier just is basically a support thing. You'll have access to the normal news feed, but for $5 a month, hey, it would be really appreciated. As Andrew says, buy us a cup of coffee, it'll go a long way. The other tiers enable you to get exclusive content. I do put special things together for our Patreons, special little videos, bits that don't make it into the normal video, end up on Patreon for those guys there to exclusively see. Sometimes I'll take little snippets out of the video. They'll get a little bit of an advanced look at where we've been and what we've done, and other things will be completely exclusive to them where they won't be available on YouTube. Does not stop us from dropping our normal content in YouTube. That will always be there. It will always be free. But if we could start to build an amazing Patreon family that would help us get out and create some awesome content, that would be just great. Another way you can help support us is buy some of our merch. So we have hats, stubby holders, printed both sides, t-shirts of course, and decals. These are the last of these decals. I don't know if you can see that very well on camera, but I printed up a new batch which basically looks like that with the YouTube logo on it. So they're the new decals, and I have a couple of these ones left as well. So you can help support us also by buying some of our merch. So that would be awesome. I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank those guys that do already support us. Thank you to the people that do watch our videos. Even your view puts a little tiny bit in the bank. It's not a lot. YouTube aren't the best payers in the world, but it's a little tiny bit. So just the views are also great. So if you haven't already subscribed, maybe consider subscribing to the channel. I hope you've enjoyed this video and you've taken a bit out of it, and we'll see you on our next adventure. Cheers guys.
Bet the house and I'll take that wager. They say you know a legend when you see one. Watch me now, I roll like thunder, gonna shake the ground.